And welcome everybody to another episode of the AATBirds Weekly Report. We have here a special guest from Locked On Vikings, Luke Braun, at Luke Braun NFL. He's on to kind of give us the opposition outlook of the Minnesota Vikings. Luke, very happy to have you on. Also joined by my co-host Mike Bauer at Rewind CEO. But we're happy to have you and talk a little bit of the Eagles' opponent come this Monday night.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Talk a little Vikings.
So the first thing I want to start off with is the Vikings got a pretty big division win against the Green Bay Packers, winning 23-7. Give us kind of the feeling in Vikings land on that victory, on the team so far after that week one.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, wait, are they good? What? No, we didn't expect this. There's always a lot of optimism everywhere in August. I mean, you'll see Bears fans talking themselves into Velus Jones, but like it's amazing. Most of the like projections around the Vikings, they were in everybody's power rankings hovering around somewhere around like 20th. They were something, somewhere in the middle because it's a Kirk Cousins team and that's going to be. And then they come out and the Packers were supposed to be a top 5 team. They were a Super Bowl favorite and you just drummed them. I mean, it wasn't competitive at all. It wasn't one of those fluky games with a tipped interception and some weird call that no, it was a pretty clean game. They just beat them real bad. And it's hard to make sense of that. We can talk more about the game in particular if you want, but it seemed like the Packers just weren't ready at all for what the Vikings were really obviously going to do. And so it was like easy mode. The Vikings got about 2 pages deep in their playbook. And before they knew it, they were up 16 points in the third quarter and they didn't really have to pull out any stops, which is wild. Like the Packers should make you work harder than that, but they really didn't.
We could say one thing too, if you look at the Vikings and you look at the Packers, the Vikings have really good wide receivers and the Packers are just kind of figuring it out. Romeo Doubs, they got Christian Watson, Marquez Valdez-Scantling didn't even play.
He's a Chief now.
Lazard. Yeah, that's right. That's why he didn't pick the Packers because he's Chief. I always get him and Alan Lazard mixed up because they're both so relevant to me. Tunyon's back, Josiah DeGora's there, but still, I know that the Packers are supposed to be a top 5 team. To me, they're a team without an identity right now because throwing the ball is going to be hard, which sucks when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers. But Randall Cobb too. Can't forget about our good old friend Randall Cobb.
You can't forget about Randall Cobb. He who was frequently shut down man-to-man with Eric Kendricks.
Yeah,
that's not very good.
Yeah, it's a weird world over there, and Rodgers is all mad. They're like melting down over there, and we're like, wait, we can do that? We didn't know this team had that in them.
Well, you must be loving it,
Oh, it's delicious. Yeah.
It's delicious. I like that.
I'm assuming the Packers fans like to talk a lot of trash to you guys, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of, this was your Super Bowl. They'll always say beating the Packers is the Vikings fans' Super Bowl because the Vikings, I'm sure you guys heard a lot of that before 2017 too from all the NFC East teams, right? The no rings thing. And and we've just decided to lean in and be like, yeah. And now we have won, Kirk Cousins has won 3 Super Bowls in a row now. It's a dynasty.
No, and just, taking a look at the Minnesota Vikings and, taking a look at their offense and Kevin O'Connell, what kind of a change has he made to this team with a guy like Kirk Cousins to be able to run his offense with the weapons that he has at his disposal?
Yeah, so it's a new scheme. It's not entirely new. It's still off of the Mike Shanahan, Alex Gibbs tree of way back that everybody's running. That kind of West Coast offense. But the differences are big enough. It's new terminology. It's a whole new thing. They were running the Kubiak version of that, what you're seeing in Cleveland right now, for example. And now they're running more the McVay version of that and a little bit of the Shanahan version of that because they have a fullback. So it's been a lot more about finding ways to get Justin Jefferson opportunities. That was the whole game plan. I don't think that's going to be the game plan every week, and we still kind of don't know what else they have in them because they didn't have to show it. But the game plan against the Packers was get him. I mean, they had him lined up on Preston Smith one-on-one twice. That happened more than one time. using motion, using overs. He got manned up with Quay Walker. I mean, linebackers and edge rushers on Justin Jefferson. I think there were like 3 snaps that were true man-to-man coverage with Jair Alexander. And that's not what the Packers wanted. And it was about kind of denying the Packers the ability to put their best guy on our best guy. And everything was just funneled into Justin Jefferson. Everybody was a role player and Justin Jefferson was the focal point. And that put up 158 yards and a half. And then they sort of let off a little bit. And then it became a game management thing.
You know, the interesting thing too is you're looking at 2 teams that could do that. We could do the same thing with AJ Brown. I think he had 41% of his snaps in the slot last week, which he didn't do a lot in Tennessee. So it's going to be interesting to see how we line up AJ Brown against you guys, hoping that Devonta Smith gets a reception. I'd like to see Quez Watkins get a little bit more involved because he could stretch the field. I think this is going to be kind of a high-scoring affair, if I could be honest with you. Yeah, especially since we couldn't shut down Detroit. So, you know, almost lost that one.
What did they like run on you? What happened in that game? I haven't seen anything of that game.
I will say this, Detroit, they really stuck to the run game. And I think offensively, Gannon took his foot off the gas a little bit. We were up by 17 at one point. He got soft, which is a Jonathan Gannon staple in Philadelphia. And, you know, Johnny, I want to say this. You're going to hate me for this. Luke, you might want to cover your ears. Jim Schwartz would never.
Oh, wow.
You know what? I agree. I agree with you, Mike.
You agree with me. We don't do that very often.
No, we don't do that very often. But no, I agree with them. You look at that game, you know, give it a little bit of what happened in that game. The Eagles had a 17-point lead, and then it just seemed like he said, let their foot off the gas. And the problem with it was Jordan Davis, the first-round draft pick out of Georgia, when he was in the ball game, he only had 22 snaps. When he was in the ball game, the Lions had 2.9 yards per carry. When he was not in the ball game, 10 yards per carry. So drastic difference in the way that, and it was the way that they were deploying the players, the way that they were doing the rotations. There's a lot of things, but again, I will put it a small little thing here. One tidbit I said on our post-game show was there's 6 to 7 players that have never played with each other. So it's like that familiarity, learning a little bit there. But again, we don't want to see what we saw last year. And that's why you look at a Vikings team and what they can do. You know, Dalvin Cook, they can do a multitude of things with him out of the backfield, whether that's run, whether it's catch the ball. They could do so many things with their weapons at receiver. And, you know, Kirk Cousins actually has had some pretty good success against the Eagles in recent years. Yes. I think he's only lost
the Zach Brown game.
Oh, yeah, geez.
Imagine getting cut because you trash talked Kirk Cousins. I'm sorry, it's so funny. Like did you see the meme where it says it just shows Kirk Cousins at the post game? It's like this dude is rolling in Cole's cash.
Oh, I saw.
Here's the thing. Glass houses, I have absolutely no stance to make fun of Kirk Cousins' wardrobe decisions. I am not in a place to comment on that positively or negatively. So I choose to stay quiet.
Look, my wife buys me shirts at Kohl's too. I'm not going to deny it. I thought the guy, whoever made the meme, was great.
People are roasting him good. He is like the dorky dad vibe. He's such a stupid goofball. And like, if he beats you and like he's running, it's like, man, we got cooked by that guy. It's so frustrating.
So Luke, I do a fantasy podcast as well. And everyone's like, we hate Kirk Cousins. And I was like, I'll take all the Kirk Cousins. Like, what does the guy do? He goes for over 4,000 yards every year. He doesn't get hurt. Like, you want Jefferson,
super high floor fantasy guy. Yeah, he always finds a way to get like 250.
You want Jefferson, you want Dalvin Cook, but you don't want the guys, pulling the trigger. I don't understand it. Question for you. So we signed, I'm going to butcher this, Janarius Robinson. Did I say that right? Off of your practice squad because Derek Barnett is done for the season with torn ACL. Can you tell us a little bit about, we'll just say Jay Robinson. So I'm sorry about butchering your name, buddy.
We called him J Rob a lot. Yeah.
Perfect. We'll call him that.
It's Janarius, I believe. But so Florida State 4th round pick last year. So he's only in his 2nd year. Came out just mega raw. It was just one of those guys that like he's not going to be able to make a team for his first 2 years. And then the staff got cleared out and we had a bit of a different idea of what we wanted to do. We need our linebackers to drop into coverage now. And that means, sometimes that means Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith dropping into coverage. Although I don't think they did it at all versus Green Bay, but they did it some in the preseason. So I have to imagine there's some of that. And Janarius Robinson ended the preseason on the depth chart below 2 undrafted rookies and didn't make the team. But he's got all the athletic tools in the world. He's got a lot of juice. He just needs a pass rush arsenal. So if you can give him if he can start to develop even just like 1 or 2 tools that can justify putting him on the field until he can learn more stuff, then there's a future for the kid. But he's very much like an upside flyer kind of guy. This might just be like one of those scouting things, it happens. Tell me about the Vikings, and then you let him off the practice squad later. But he's very he's not, I wouldn't expect him to be a relevant part of the Eagles for a while. He's a project for your D-line coach.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Just depth at this point because we lost the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're calling on him, it's bad. He should probably be like the last option. I think he's a project. He should be he should be backstage, put him in the slow cooker and don't touch him,
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way I kind of look at it too is, he's super raw, but he has the measurables. Like you said, he's 6'5", 260, long arms. It's kind of like, when Josh Sweat came out, he was super raw. Now he had injuries, stuff like that. The thing about it is he's going to basically play the role of what Teron Jackson, one of the Eagles backup, edge rushers. Basically what Janarius Robinson is going to be doing is learning, hopefully getting a pass rush skill set, everything like that, but just kind of sitting there learning. He's still young, and then giving the other guys that were just behind Dark Barnett more rep, more opportunities. But I don't know, maybe it's an intel type of thing, trying to get as much as they can from the Vikings. But again, I really don't see that as, teams do it all the time. There really isn't much you can gain, in my opinion, from stuff like that.
No, and you can get stuff like, oh yeah, like this is what really bugs this guy. This is, Janarius was on the whole team last year. Oh, this is when Kirk Cousins was really rattled. It was when this happened, that kind of thing. It's nothing you can't get by looking at tape, but sure, it helps. But I wouldn't put too much stock into it. I think that's a developmental flyer, and you're probably not going to think about him until next training camp.
Okay, so my question for you is, so how, what can the Vikings do to win this game? What are your keys to the game?
It's got to be for the Vikings. Or sorry, did you mean Eagles on Vikings? Like, how do the Eagles beat the Vikings, or what am I looking for?
What are you looking for? In terms of the Vikings, against the Eagles.
Yeah, contain Justin or Jalen Hurts. That's got to be the thing, because it seemed like whenever the Lions had a good play going, Hurts would be able to go make. So there's that 1 3rd and long he scrambled, I saw, and converted. You can't let that happen to you. You guys probably know better about Hurts than I do, but it seems like you just can't let that be the outlet. And when you have a mobile quarterback, a lot of time your progression will have scramble in it, where it'll be, okay, 1's not there, 2's not there. Instead of a check down, you're kind of become your own check down. And if you can play good enough contain, and by contain, I don't just mean let him chill in the pocket, right? I mean contain and collapse and put pressure on him, but choke off the escape lanes, then he doesn't have a check down. And then you start to get into maybe where you can get a young guy improvising, and that might not be a good thing. But I think it has to be the way that they attack Hurts. I'm really curious to see the way that they end up attacking Hurts. Will they blitz? Will they play coverage? What will they do? I'm curious to see where they go with that. I don't know what the right answer is, but that's got to be the key, is how they attack the quarterback. And then also, I don't think they have anybody that matches up 1v1 with AJ Brown. They don't have that kind of secondary. So it's going to be, can you keep safeties on top of him? Can you keep him capped? Can you keep those big plays out? Against the Packers, their whole offense turned into 4-yard gain, 4-yard gain, 4-yard gain. Well, eventually you can't do that every single play. Nobody won a game 4 yards at a time. So if you can get the Eagles to get into that kind of hyper conservative place again, then I like the Vikings' chances there. But it's all going to start with, can they make Hurts a little more uncomfortable than the Lions were able to?
So now let's flip it. How, for the the Eagles standpoint, how do you think the Eagles can get a win against this Vikings team?
Yeah. So there is a pretty good weakness that you guys should look at. It's going to be, I think Jordan Davis should play this whole game, because Jordan Davis, what you said, he played like half the snaps, a third of the snaps. And unless he's tired, that's like, if it's conditioning, that's what, because he's a big dude. But the Vikings center, Garrett Bradbury, you remember that clip that came out of him like sledding Cam Jurgens?
Cam Jurgens, yeah.
Yeah. That happens to Bradbury a lot. And so we're all looking at this game going, oh, this is the one where Jordan Davis is going to kill us and get a bunch of interior pressure. So I think the plan needs to be, and this is probably what Jonathan Gannon's looking at, is, okay, how do we design our fronts to get Jordan Davis one-on-one with Garrett Bradbury with no help? And they're sitting there in the O-line room going, how do we prevent that from happening? But I think if you can exploit that matchup, you can get interior pressure on Cousins. Cousins was real chill in the pocket. He was very comfortable with the bullets flying, with like under pressure, even when he had to be scrambling, when things weren't perfect. He was very cozy and very, Kevin O'Connell uses the phrase, quieted mind. It's in there though. It's always been a part of Kirk Cousins that if you can start getting him a little rattled, he can start making weird mistakes. And I think if you can get that interior pressure, you can get to that. But it's all going to be about kind of, can you organize your fronts in such a way to lure the Vikings into protections where Garrett Bradbury has to do stuff he's just not big enough to do. He's listed as 300 pounds on the Vikings website, and I don't think that's true.
Smaller center, which the Eagles
suspiciously that number.
Eagles know that too. Jason Kelce is not the biggest center. But...
Well, yeah, and that was like the comp for him coming out of college. But he's Jason Kelce, but not as good.
But no, it's just looking at this game. For me, it's just taking a look at what the Packers did. One question that I have about the Vikings defense is their run defense. How does their run defense stack up? Because the Eagles are a team that went over 200 yards against the Lions. They're a team that can run the ball with Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell. You have Jalen Hurts there. How does the run defense for the Minnesota Vikings kind of stack up?
They kind of don't care. They ran a light box like 33% of the time, according to I think it's Honest NFL, who's an Eagles guy on Twitter, who charted a bunch of this. Like, apparently they ran a whole bunch and they did. They basically kept both safeties on the roof way out, and they lined up the corners off a lot. So there's just never anything deep. And then it led to a lot of 6-7 man boxes, like not a lot, open gaps. And the Packers actually were able to run. I think they ended up with over 6 yards a carry in that game. And it just kind of didn't matter because you could never pay it off. So they might be all right with that. They might say, yeah, run the ball all day on your 2nd and 10s. Eventually you're going to get behind the chains and not be able to. And then I will say, like, Harrison Phillips up front, Dalvin Tomlinson up front are very good. Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith, they both got pushed around a little in the run. They were unreal in the pass, like super playmaky, and it was way worth it. But they did get pushed around a little. Eric Kendricks got pushed around a little. So if you want to, tighten everything up and get physical and make it that kind of game, there might be something there. But the Vikings might say, okay, good luck doing anything else then. We'll let you have that, but we're not going to let you have anything else. And that's sort of I want to say Jonathan Gannon does a lot of that too. These two defensive schemes are really similar.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunately the Vikings had some success against Aaron Rodgers. The Eagles started to have some success against Goff and then kind of laid back. But no, I understand where you're coming from in terms of the scheme wise and everything there.
Yeah. And if I remember, I think we interviewed Gannon for our head coach job this offseason.
Yeah. Wish you would have took him.
Yeah. Why couldn't you take him off our hands? Look, here's the problem I have with Jonathan Gannon, okay? We're constantly told he's the smartest guy in the room, first one in, last one out. And then all offseason we heard about how much more aggressive this defense is going to be and this and that. And it's all lies. Like, if you're so smart, you need to realize when you're not doing something right. For example, Nick Sirianni last year realized his play calling wasn't good enough. He handed over the play calling duties to Shane Steichen, our offensive coordinator. Since then, in my opinion, the play calling has been much, much better, significantly better. I actually like the way the game plan unfolded this past week offensively. But Jim Schwartz never had a defense with as many quality players as this, and yet his defense never really let this team down. We're talking about scraping guys off the street. Here's your Eagles uniform. Go cover CeeDee Lamb. And yet Jim Schwartz's defense, they were always pretty good. And Jonathan Gannon's defense, with on paper one of the best defensive lines in the NFL, great secondary, good linebacking core, they get pushed all up and down the field. I understand DeAndre Swift is a good running back, but come on, man. Get it together.
That's super interesting. The line got O-line got a lot of push, even for the undersized Bradbury, but they've got Ed Ingram is a bully, and Ezra Cleveland is a tackle playing guard, so he's tackle sized. And Christian Darrisaw is a bully. Brian O'Neill's a smaller tackle, but he gets pushed plenty too. So like they were pushing Packers front guys around, and that like they had double teams on Kenny Clark and had Kenny Clark on skates sometimes. Yeah. So if that's going to be that, like if this is going to be that, like it might be one of those things where there's one team has a lead and they can just rattle off 5-6 yard runs and get 8 minutes off the clock and totally warp the game.
I do think, real quick, Johnny, sorry to cut you off. Okay. I think Jonathan Gannon will be a good head coach. There's guys that maybe not. He's a very organized guy, this and that. Like, look, Mike Tomlin was only a coordinator for a year, been a fantastic head coach. That could be Jonathan Gannon, just putting people in the right place and let them run their systems within the confines of his overall general structure. He might be really good at that. So, like some guys are better NFL players than college players and vice versa. That just might be his thing right there. But as a coordinator, he leaves something to be desired for me as an Eagles fan.
Yeah. That's with a lot of the fan base. Now, what I want to do here to end this segment here, I want to get your prediction for the game on Monday. If you don't want to give a score or winner, you can give one key matchup you're really looking at. Maybe not something you gave here, because I'm not sure with your show if you can. I don't want you to give away something that people want to see later. It's up to you how you want to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess a key matchup is going to be, I'll say Kevin O'Connell and Jonathan Gannon, and the fight over can they get their best guy on Justin Jefferson. Who is your best corner? Darius Slay?
It'd be Slay.
Is that your one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want Darius Slay on Justin Jefferson, Vikings did a great job of denying that in week 1. Can the Eagles do a better job of sort of controlling the matchups, or will they even care? Will they just play sides, zone everything off, and say, let's just all work together? So here's what I'll give you. Over under on this game is 50.5 at Bet Online. The Eagles are 2-point favorites. So that implies a 27-24 game, something like that. That sounds about right. I'll go 27. I think it's close. I think anything can happen in this game. I kind of don't know what to make of the Vikings at all right now. So I'm just going to default to Vegas and let them do it for me. 27-24 Eagles.
Whoa. Okay.
Sure.
Oh.
I have genuinely no clue what happened. I could see a blowout one way, a blowout the other way. I could see it come down to a field goal. I have absolutely no idea what happens in this game.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. No, but I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you talking some Vikings, giving us a little bit of some intel on the Minnesota Vikings. Where can everyone find you? Plug your socials, everything with that.
Yep. So you can find me on the Locked On Vikings podcast. Some of your listeners might be Locked On Eagles listeners. I'm the Vikings version of that. That's available anywhere you find podcasts, including YouTube. Just search it out. Also Locked On NFL on Tuesdays, and you can find the more in-depth stuff. The stuff I'm really proud of is on my Patreon, patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL. Same handle on Twitter. Hope to see you all.
Yeah. Hey, good luck to your Vikings. Hopefully they fall just short like you had predicted. That would be great for the Eagles fan base. And the other keynote,
I would not enjoy this. All right.
You can use it too. The Eagles have not won a second game since 2016.
A week 2 game?
A week 2 game. Yes.
That's amazing. What?
Yep.
All right, sure.
Well, then,
2016.
Let's make our predictions. 38-7 Eagles.
I was wondering when that was going to come up.
Sorry, had to.
Yeah.
Just
Had to
Fair.
throw that
Fair.
in there.
Yeah.
But that is not
just
my prediction,
know
for the record.
that's not even the worst NFC Championship blowout on the road against
41-0
an NFC
against
team
the
in
Giants.
the West.
2000.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it ranks like 8th in Vikings pain. You can't hurt us more than they hurt us.
Yeah.
For the record, the year that Randall took you guys to the championship game, I was a hardcore Vikings fan in the playoffs that year.
I'm so sorry.
I wanted to see Randall win it so bad.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm sure you did too. Like I grew up, Randall Cunningham was the guy that, watching him play football, he was the guy that got me into football. I loved everything he could do on the field. So that was tough, man. Freaking who's
I was
that?
a little too young to have the clearest memory of that one.
Yeah.
But I did just
13?
do a on my Patreon, and it's all free to watch, a 7-part documentary series, 7 hours on the history of the Vikings. Comprehensive detail history of the Vikings, and the Eagles come up a few times.
Donovan McNabb on the Vikings. You got
Donovan McNabb makes his appearance, but
That
go
was
all
so
the way
weird.
back to the 80 team, the 1980 that defense beat us in the first round of their first game of the playoffs, I think.
There's a lot of history with the Vikings and the Eagles. There's
04. Although we were just happy to be there in 04. We were
08
house money for real. 08, yeah, that was also kind of a mess of a team, and then all the way up to 2017, the Bradford trade, all that stuff. We have a weird couple decades.
Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, for real. Huh?
Yeah. But again, thank you for joining us. Hope to have you on again very soon. Thank you again, and we'll be talking.
Let's hear it for
Cheers.
Luke. Thank you, Luke. Sorry, I had to get the applause sound drop in there.
Take care, man.
All right.
See you, Luke.
All right. So
Interesting stuff. Always like to hear from the other side.
oh yeah, you get some info that you can read about certain things, but get it straight from them. And but before we kind of dig a little bit into this game, I want to get your thoughts because you weren't on the post game show. We haven't kind of talked about the game too much. So give me a couple of quick thoughts on the Eagles Lions Week 1 matchup.
Yeah, it's your typical Eagles roller coaster. You know what I mean? It's like why can't anything just be easy for us?
Yeah, but how about this though? I saw this and I want to bring it up to you. So if the Eagles would have won, say 38-20 or 38-21, okay, or 38-20, we'll say, because they had 17. But if they would have won like that, everyone would be like, "Oh, they had a great game. They beat up on the Lions. They ran away with it." Now they didn't. 38-35. They let the Lions come back. Does it kind of open up the eyes to the Eagles players to be like, okay, we got a lot to work on, even though they still had those things to work on, but it would have been kind of, it wouldn't have been as evident if they would have won a little bit bigger, like a 38-20 type of game.
Yeah, I guess it's nice to get that shock in there. Like, hey, look, we won, but it could have just as easily been a loss. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, and it was a good game overall. Like we talked about with when Luke was on, I just don't like how the defense just let up. Yeah, they got real soft there in the middle. And is that going to be Jonathan Gannon's legacy in Philadelphia? He was just a soft defensive coordinator. Because I'm thinking about it, and I just feel like there's other guys out there right now. If you took Manny Diaz from Penn State and put him in here, you're telling me that he couldn't coordinate a better defense than Jonathan Gannon right now with these guys?
What about a guy that's been hanging out all preseason, all training camp, Vic Fangio?
Vic Fangio, yeah. Hey, I almost wonder if there's something there, because the speculation was that Gannon could have gotten a,
Head coaching job.
Head coaching job. So I hate to use the word grooming, but are they saying to Vic, hey, hang out, see what we got going on, see if it's something you're interested in? I'm sure Gannon's picking his brain. Why wouldn't you? Right?
What he's using, we don't know.
But doesn't Fangio run a 3-4?
He does run a 3-4 type of scheme, exactly kind of what the Eagles are doing. And he did that in Denver, and Denver's defenses weren't that bad. His defense is all along. We were with the Titans. He was not Titans, the Texans. He was with Denver, with Chicago. So
I feel like if Howie and Jeff were like, look, we want you to come in, but we want a multiple scheme. We don't just want a 3-4. I guarantee Vic Fangio could do that.
And I believe he did do that. He was with the Bears before he was with the Broncos, got the head coaching job with the Broncos. He was defensive coordinator. He had players like Akeem Hicks. He had Mack. He had a lot of very talented players on that defense, and that defense was always pretty good. It was just the offensive side of the ball that wasn't very good. And same thing with Denver. Denver was the offensive side of the ball seemed to lack, and the defensive side of the ball was the one that was showing promise. But unfortunately, for me, he'd be a guy that I would look into. Now, if Jonathan Gannon keeps struggling, they keep giving up a lot of points. And, for me, I get the whole Jordan Davis, 22 snaps. Maybe he was gassed. Maybe he was winded. Maybe he's not in the best shape. But the way I see it is
that's an issue.
When you have a guy like Tui Pelotu playing 29 snaps, and you look at the stats comparing the two and what they did on running plays, they each had 15 running plays against them when they were in the game. And Tui Pelotu had a 0%, I guess, stop or like a run stuff type of play. And Jordan Davis had a 14.3% run stuff. To me, it's just he's got to be in the game, whether it's on first and second down, you pull him, and if it's third down, if it's a passing situation. But again, they have to fix the rotation. I understand you want to rotate, you want to do certain things, but you have to do it smartly. And having guys like Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick drop back and cover multiple times when their strength, and even Reddick has to, he let up, just rushing straight up field, opening a lane for them to just run the ball. They got to have a little bit of control when they're rushing the passer as well. So again, stuff that needs to be ironed out. They know it needs to be ironed out. I listened to the Brandon Graham show. He was talking about it, that they know what they got to do. They know what the offense carried them. They'll get it worked out. So we'll see. They got a huge test. This Minnesota team is no team to sleep on. Kirk Cousins in this offense with the weapons he has, it's pretty scary, in my opinion, looking at it.
Yeah, for sure.
You got Monday night, well, the Eagles, I did hear the Eagles may bring out the all black. So
that'd be cool.
That would be pretty cool. Monday night, the link's going to be rocking.
For sure.
So, for me, it's just, it all comes down to being able to, one, protect, and two, it's Jalen Hurts, taking those steps each game, trying not to run too much, because again, taking so many hits, he may be able to get you those yards, the open field. He's dynamic in that aspect, but again, he's sliding and they're landing on top of him, and there's no penalties being called if it's a guy like Aaron Rodgers running, or a Tom Brady, or a Justin Herbert running and sliding, and or Mahomes, and someone lands on top of him, the flag's coming out. Unfortunately, players like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Cam Newton, they never get the treatment. Michael Vick, you're a runner. They don't get the type of preferential treatment that these other so-called pocket passers get.
And I will say this: Miles Sanders looked pretty damn good.
Oh, hey, if he can get that type of play, and for me, Miles Sanders, we know what he can do when there's an open hole and he just shoots right through it. We've seen it time and time again. But that third down play where he was stuffed, he was in the backfield, he was caught by, I believe, number 55 of the Lions. I think it was Barnes. It was either Barnes or I don't think it was Rodriguez. I think it was Barnes. He was caught there, and he was able to go over to the left there, find the hole, shoot the hole, and go 26 yards. And we didn't see a ton of that. More of it was, he may get 1 or 2 yards, put a little strength into it, get a couple yards. But if he can play this type of running back and be able to find the holes, be able to, and not just cut it to the outside, because that's been a thing for him as well, is just try to cut it all the way to the outside and get around the edge. When in the NFL, that's not always the easiest thing to do. But, seeing what he was able to do, it was very, very encouraging. And, they were able to implement all the running backs. All the running backs got rushing touchdowns. Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, caught a pass, and unfortunately another pass that was a little too low for him to catch. But I just think AJ Brown had a hell of a game. What do you think of his debut?
What's there not to say? I mean, he looked great. He caught some passes that weren't on the money, but when he gets the ball in his hands, he's fantastic. He's everything that was advertised. And we knew what he was coming in. Everyone knew how great AJ Brown was, but now to actually see it, not just on highlights, because I don't know about you, I don't watch very many Titans games because I don't really care. But
I think a lot of it, watching that playoff game last year, the catches he made in that game, unbelievable, and the type of game he had. Open your eyes to it.
He's special. He's special, and just like I'm sure Tennessee's missing him, just like I'm sure Green Bay is missing Devontae Adams right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Receiver play is huge, and I feel, just the way you look at the Eagles' offense, and I think one thing with the Minnesota Vikings, they're not going to play the type of defense they played against Aaron Rodgers, and there's no need to do that. They're going to have a safety down in the box, or they're going to have an extra guy in that box because they're going to need someone to account for Jalen Hurts. They're going to want to, you may see some blitzes because they're going to want to try to get him off. You're not going to want him sitting back there. They want to make him make quick decisions. And that's going to be the biggest thing.
Honestly, if I was the Vikings defensive coordinator, I would blitz the shit out of him early. He did not have a good start to last game, 0 for 5. And, one thing, Jalen's only 6'1", so he gets some passes batted down. Unfortunately, when you have a shorter quarterback, that's what you get. But I would honestly, I'd be all over him early, get him out of his rhythm, get him out of his comfort zone, hope to force a mistake and get ahead. That's what I would try to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You do that with young quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do.
Yeah. But the one thing that Luke said that, he talked about the corners with Minnesota and that they're not real, like, because Patrick Peterson's older and they have Cam Dantzler.
He's damn
and
old.
they're not real press type of guys. If they're going to play zone, and I'm thinking that's what they're going to do, because if they're playing zone, then it kind of accounts for, keeping an eye on the quarterback as well. I'm going to see a lot of zone, but if that's the case and they're able to hold up on their pass protection, whether that's getting the right assignments, because there was a number of free rushers for the Lions last week, and you got to be able to account for that. You got to be able to clean that up, which I think Jeff Stoutland will do. So that's not really too big of a concern for me. But if they're going to be playing zone, you're going to have spots open, especially in the middle of the field with guys like Goddard and AJ Brown. And then maybe that opens up, if you're only playing one safety, maybe it opens up for a deep route, whether that's to Devontae or whether that's to Quez. So some stuff that you do want to see them improve at. But again, I think a lot of it comes to the defense and just worrying about Justin Jefferson, and just trying to be able to contain him the best that you can. But I think what's more worrisome is they need to get a pass rush.
Yeah.
The ineptitude of the pass rush against the Lions. I think they blitzed 6. I saw they blitzed 6 times, and I guess they hit Goff. I think it was like 5 or 6 times, which was the lowest. And the blitz of 6 blitzes, I think, was second lowest, I believe. But we know Gannon doesn't blitz, but they got to get more pressure. You didn't pay Hassan Reddick all this money to not be able to rush the quarterback. They got to get some push, whether it's in the middle. Cox, Hargrave, you didn't really hear his name at all. So I know he's coming back. He didn't play at all in the preseason. He was, coming back off an injury. So, they got to get pressure on Cousins. Cousins, you have to be able to, throw him off balance a little bit.
Get right in his face.
Exactly. They have to. They need to be able to, throw him off, because you let him sit back there, he's going to pick you apart.
100%.
The other thing I want to go over before we make our predictions and our locks, I want to go over last week's locks. Chip had Hurts, 250 yards, 4 total touchdowns. Unfortunately, that one did not hit. I had Goddard, 90 yards and a touchdown. That did not hit. He had 60 yards and no touchdowns. But Mike, and you can play the applause because you did correctly say Miles Sanders was going to have a touchdown. So you are 1-0.
He was due.
He was due.
He was due. I mean, it's a shame. And, I feel like he's another guy, like, how Dillard always got labeled as soft. I feel like Miles Sanders gets the soft label too. And yeah, I get it. Like, he gets some soft tissue injuries, and it happens with running backs, happens with NFL players. But they were hounding him, I guess, in a press conference about injuries. And he's like, I broke my hand. Like, what? I am never, when somebody breaks a bone, like, I'm never going to fault them for that, because that's just one of those things. If you're a guy who always has like these nagging injuries, it's like, do you know how to stretch? Like, what's the deal? Do you know how
it's
to
like a soft tissue injury?
Yeah. It's like, you break your hand, man. Like, you break your leg or ankle, it happens. But look, Miles Sanders is a tough dude. He runs hard. He's more physical than people think. I feel like people think that Miles Sanders is some finesse back because he has some good moves in the open field, but I've seen him stand people up. I've seen him run people over. So I like Miles Sanders. To me, if he plays 14 or 15 games, I think they offer him a contract. I think it's not anything special, like a 2-year deal. You know what I mean? Something decent, but why wouldn't you want to bring him back?
Yeah, and that was a question I was going to pose to you. What if he has, a 1,200-yard season, 6 or 7 touchdowns, another 30, 40 receptions, and 2, 3 receiving touchdowns, has a really good season? Do you think they re-up? Which you kind of answered that already, but
yeah. And look at this. For his career, he averages like 5.1 yards a carry, which is fantastic. In this game, he averaged 7.38 yards per carry.
Yeah. He's dynamic.
That's really good.
And I think he's a sneaky fast. Like, you don't see it, but he has that burst. We've seen it multiple times on long runs. How he shoots through the hole.
Let's not forget, he was fairly highly recruited to Penn State.
He was. Like,
oh, well, why couldn't he get on the field at Penn State? Well, because Saquon Barkley was there.
Yeah, Saquon was there.
So if you ever have questions about that, there's a website called 24/7 Sports, and you can go back and look, and we can see he was a 5-star recruit. 5-star recruit.
Harrisburg, right? No, not Harrisburg.
Pittsburgh. He's from.
Because, it's just, for me, I want to see the guy, have a great season. I want to see him resign. He's a Penn Stater.
Here's how you know he's a good running back. He received an offer on February 25th, 2015 from the Alabama Crimson Tide. So that's...
And you got a top program recruiting you.
Yeah, and I mean, let's see. He also visited Nebraska, Michigan. He got an offer from Virginia Tech. So, it looks like he didn't get a lot of offers, but I think once he signed on to Penn State,
kind of where he was going to be.
Penn State was his first visit too, but he was also Mr. Football in Pennsylvania at one point in time. So, people hate on Miles Sanders, but what are you going to do? Saquon Barkley's better. Yeah, I'll say that. Miles Sanders will probably tell you that Saquon Barkley's better too. He knows.
Exactly. And that was one thing when he got that role that last year before he came to went to the draft, was coming out of Saquon Barkley's shadow. And, it's just, he had a very good season. Then he was drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles, the same division as Saquon Barkley. Yeah. Now, Saquon Barkley's the last 2 seasons have kind of fell off because he's been injured. And unfortunately, Miles Sanders has been nicked up too. But I don't know. I just think Miles Sanders is the type of back that, if he's healthy, is going to put together a very dynamic, very good season, because we see it with our eyes, what he does on the field. We see his speed, we see his elusiveness, we see his explosion. So, for me, I hope that he has a great season. I would love to see him re-sign. I just don't know how much they value the running back to be able to give him.
He was also, when he was recruited, he was the 21st overall prospect in the country, 21st overall, and the #1 running back recruit in the country. So, you know, and you look at, so there's a website called Player Profile, and I use this a lot for fantasy stuff, but it also gives you a good look on what these guys are doing. So, let's look at some of his efficiency metrics right here. True yards per carry. So this discounts all runs greater than 10 yards, which puts a premium on consistency and factors out the disproportionate impact of long runs. Actual yards per carry is displayed in parentheses. So his true yards per carry is 6.8. It's fifth in the NFL. Yards per touch, 7 yards per touch. Juke rate, which is evaded tackles per touch, is 26.7, which is 21st in the NFL. Breakaway run weight, percentage of carries of 15 or more yards, 15.4. Breakaway runs, total carries 15 more yards, 2. This is, I mean, when he gets the ball in his hands, if he could just finally get a coach that commits to him, because Doug Peterson never did. Sirianni didn't early, and then he broke his hand. He screwed up his ankle, he broke his hand. He could just get a chance. I think Miles Sanders could have a Pro Bowl caliber year, and he could ride Booby, man.
Yeah.
He knows he's a great freaking running back. He's 5'11", 211.
Yeah. It's not like he's small.
He's not a small
guy. He's a stocky guy. So I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you.
When you have like a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 and you put Boston Scott in the game, no disrespect to Boston Scott. I love him. I think he's a fantastic player. Put Miles Sanders on the field. Between Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts' running ability, that is more of a threat than Boston Scott.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. Because, I love Boston Scott too. I agree with you. He's very good in short yardage. It is because I think he's small enough that he gets so low. But again, it's the risk of if someone, breaks the gap, you have more of a chance for Miles Sanders to get that extra yard than Boston Scott to get that yard.
Yeah. And I will say this, I got Boston Scott's autograph last year. And I'll tell you what, the dude, for only being 5'6", he's built like Maurice Jones-Drew was, smaller guy. But, I could probably tackle Boston Scott. I would have to hit him really hard because I'm old. So I probably couldn't tackle Boston Scott. Forget that. I couldn't.
Yeah. You don't want to be putting those type of things out there.
The pros versus Joes thing. I wish they
did.
Do they still do that show?
I don't believe they do. I think that's
they should.
No longer, but never know. They may re-up. They like to bring old things back.
I'm gonna try to get you to cover Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. But talking about bringing old things back, we're gonna be doing a good old segment that we do every week.
It's time for the Ulecka Locks of the week. Who's your lock?
All right, we went over last week's locks. So I'm going to send it since Mike is the winner from last week. I'm going to have you start it off and give us your lock of the week. Now, it doesn't have to be the Eagles game. We did all Eagles game last week. It can be through the whole NFL. So your lock of the week for this week too. I'm
just going to keep it with the Birds.
Okay.
How's that sound?
Sounds fine by me.
See, I like going with the Eagles. By the way, I do want to say Kaiser White looked pretty good in his Eagles debut. I thought great signing. Finally, that 1-year linebacker deal that we've been wanting to work out looks like it's actually going to happen here. Interesting to see what they do with linebacker in the offseason, by the way. So my lock of the week, Devonta Smith, at least 3 catches and at least 50 yards.
It's a pretty small lock, but I guess if you had none.
It's about 15 yards a catch. You know what I mean? I could up it to 4 catches and 60 yards if you want.
No, it's okay. We'll go with 350. We'll go with 350.
It's minimum. So
we may have Chip post his prediction and or lock.
We missed Charles today.
Yeah, we're missing Charles tonight. But we may have him do it, have him say his lock and his prediction on his usually I think Sunday morning show. they do their picks, him and his wife. So may have him just shout that out on that. But for me, the lock that I'm going to go with, I'm going to stick with this game as well. And I'm going to go to I'm going to stick with the offensive side of the ball. I'm not going to go to the defensive side of the ball. I don't really want to test anything on that side of the ball. But with the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to go Jalen Hurts throws for 2 touchdowns and runs another one in. So 3 total touchdowns, but 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. I know that's not a lot to ask for, but
again, you consider he doesn't really throw a lot of touchdown passes.
Yeah. When they get in the red zone area or they get, from the 10-yard, the goal-to-go situations, there's a lot of rushing touchdowns in there, not a lot of passing touchdowns. That's something I feel like they have to get better at. You're going to need to be able to throw the ball for touchdowns in those situations, whether it's, first and goal or, from 10 to go or from 20 to go or in the red zone in general. You have to be able to throw the ball.
And, I know he doesn't have the strongest arm, but the field's obviously condensed in the red zone. And I think he's accurate enough that he can make those throws. And you don't really have to rifle the ball in there, especially when you're throwing fades and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Get it to your playmakers.
I agree.
So now we're going to go to the prediction time. Getting the prediction for this Monday Night Football. Buck and Aikman will be doing the game. So my quick little input on that, I did like listening to them on Monday night. I felt like, it brought me back to when you had a very good announcing team, like Madden and Al Michaels. Like I like their analysis. I like that. They don't have a cheesy third person on or a cheesy color guy on, talking about nonsense. Why banana and everything. I don't have to say his name. Everyone knows what goofball I'm talking about. But what do you got for this game on Monday night?
35-30 Birds.
Oh, okay.
I also want to let everyone know Miles Sanders is always hurt. He's only missed 8 games due to injury in his entire career.
They just, you know what it is? I think the aspect of him being hurt, it's more of them underutilizing him that it kind of feels that way.
I think so. I think you're right.
But 35-30 Birds, you said, right?
I think it's a high-scoring game.
Okay.
I really do. But I think we take it.
Yeah, the link's going to be electric.
Oh,
so
for sure.
Especially if they come out wearing the all black, it's going to be crazy. And I think it's going to be high scoring as well. But I'm going to go 28-27 Eagles.
Okay. Close one.
So it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be an edge of our seat type of game because that's what the Eagles like to do to us. Not sure how many more of those you can take. You did say there, gives you little heart palpitations.
It's nice to have an easy win once in a while. You know what
Believe
I mean?
me.
A friend of mine, Jeff, he sent out a tweet the other day. He's like, it would not kill the NFL to start these games at 7:45. I'm like, you are absolutely right.
Well, remember, Monday night, there's 2 games. You have the 7:15 Titans and the Bills play at 7:15, and then the Eagles and Vikings play at 8:30.
Okay, well then why couldn't we get the 7:15 game?
I don't have that answer. You can also say you could send a letter to the NFL that they won't read and just throw away. So I could always get you that address when we close this show out if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm good. I'll send a strongly worded email.
Yeah, because I'm sure that's great. And Peanut's checking in, hoping ain't that close. Well, Peanut, you may be about 17 beers in. You may not feel too much of a
how many
that much of a heartache.
Do you think Peanut drinks on a game day?
You know what? I think that's a great topic for the next Birds, Beers, and BS because I think they need to do an official count for this Monday night. Well, they're actually at the game. Birds, Beers, and BS is going to be at the game on Monday night, I believe.
Oh, are they? Well, then I would imagine that Peanut wouldn't drink as much just because it's so expensive down there.
Yeah. So maybe, well, you know what? Maybe we can tally it on our Washington trip because,
yes,
we're all going to be together for that. Going down to Washington, taking the bus. There is over 1,000 fans going.
And I am
Eagles
not
fans,
the
by
bus
way.
captain, by the way. Just want to let everyone know that.
Yes. I am the bus captain. That's fine. Yeah. Should I get a captain hat and wear it?
You should do that.
No,
And then
I
we're going to
probably
leave you there and think it's hilarious. Like, is that guy with the captain hats with you? Nope.
Nope. Nope.
All right. So, Peanut, we're going to do it. We're going to tally it up.
Yeah. Well, we are going to be like kind of vlogging the moments and stuff. So that's something that's fun. And also, hopefully, Peanut and Jeff get a little bit of some video of them down at the Eagles game. Maybe, you know what I would like to see? I think Peanut would do great because he's great talking to people, just walking up to people and just having a conversation. He just has that personality.
I hate doing that, by the way.
Especially when he's got a couple beers in him. I'm sure it's even greater. I think he needs to have some very detailed questions to the fans down in Philly. I'm sure he gets some great answers. That'd be great content, especially for his show on Fridays, the YouTube exclusive, where you can only find it on YouTube. So make sure that you are subscribing to our YouTube channel, AAT Sports Media Network. You'll get all the content, whether it's Chip and Drip on Mondays, whether it is Burning Bridges, which is now back on Tuesday nights, whether it is this show, AATBirds Weekly Report, either Opposition Outlook or all the other shows that we have, whether it's the post-game show that we do, either it's a pre-game show, Birds, Beers, and BS, Across the Pitch, the Chip and Tila's Pick Show. So there's a lot going on the network. So make sure that you're subscribing, you're following all the socials, on Facebook, everything like that. So make sure you're following, and of course, Peanut checking in. He's definitely going to do that. So I'm pretty excited to see kind of what kind of content comes out of that. Could probably be a little hilarious, but going to throw a little bit of some Vinny's Pizza, some sponsors. Vinny's Pizza and Restaurant located off the Iroquois Trail in the Old Time Shopping Center in Allentown. Visit them today, www.vinnyspizzapa.com. Tell them we sent you, whether it's game day grub, just going out, you need some lunch. If you're in the area, definitely check them out. They got a lot of cool specials, a lot of really good food there. Also in the Old Town Shopping Center, Stuff to the Grills. Again, if you're having, if you're doing a spread, if you're having a party, you're catering, check them out. Tell them we sent you. You can find them www.stufftothegrills.com. So definitely make sure that you're checking them out as well. So got that. And, I think that that kind of wraps up the show tonight. Again, I want to thank Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings for coming on. Again, you can find him at Luke Braun NFL. Really appreciate him coming on, giving us a little bit of some intel on the Minnesota Vikings. But as far as this show, I'm Johnny U at Johnny U9322. We got my partner in crime here, Mike at Rewind CEO. And the way we end every show is a very happy and cheerful. Go Birds.
Go Birds.